Election Day in New York City is just a few days away, and Election Yard is here. America's largest city is going to elect a new mayor. And let me tell you, I might be in Virginia, but my ties to New York and New York City are deep. I can't remember the last campaign in New York City that was as wild as this one. The primary 4 years ago, 2021, that was busy, but the general election was a snooze. 2017 and 2013, Bill de Blasio, they were snoozes. You have to go back to 2009 for the last close race for mayor. And mind you, this one at the end of the day, it might not be close either. But in terms of a campaign with some real pop, maybe 2001, right after 9/11, Bloomberg running against Mark Green. The 93 race with Giuliani against Dinkins. I mean, it's been years since there was a competitive general election in New York City, but whatever happens, this is one of the most unique campaigns in the city that I've ever seen. Now we know for a fact New York City will have a new mayor because Eric Adams, the incumbent, he dropped out. He was relatively unpopular even from the beginnings of his term, and it's just gotten worse over his 4 years in office with the federal charges he had that ended up getting dropped, his alignment and perceived closeness with Donald Trump, other policy criticisms about police, budget cuts, homelessness policies. Adams was never going to win. This is why he skipped the Democratic primary entirely and just decided to run as an independent. I mean, look, Curtis Sliwa was more likely to win this election than Eric Adams won, and he ain't going to win either. So what does that tell you? So for all intents and purposes, there are three candidates that we need to talk about. These are the three we're focusing on. The Democrat, Zohran Mamdani, state assemblyman. Andrew Cuomo, independent, fight and deliver party. Former governor of New York as a Democrat. And then Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, the founder of the Guardian Angels, former talk radio personality. So Mamdani is the assumed favorite. Cuomo was the assumed favorite in the primary. Didn't work out. So this is a bit of a role reversal here because when we were in the primary campaign, Cuomo was just assumed to be the winner and Mamdani was chasing him and eventually ran him down. But now Mamdani is the favorite and Cuomo's the one trying to chase him. So we have some polls that we want to talk about before getting into the particulars of the race. And then we're going to offer our final thoughts and a prediction or two. And as a reminder from the Virginia and New Jersey videos, we are only using established independent pollsters in this video. We are not including partisan polls, and I'm not including pollsters that I've never heard of before. So the first poll that we're going to show, we're going to try to get through these relatively quickly. Fox News was the first one. It was taken October 14th and 15th. It was a big lead for Mamdani, 52-28 over Cuomo, and then you had Sliwa at 14%. I'm going to spoil this for you now. The polls that we're going to show you, all of them have the candidates in the same order. Mamdani 1, Cuomo 2, Sliwa 3. So now that we've established that, let's move forward, but the numbers are going to vary a little bit. The second poll we're going to show you, this was the Suffolk poll, a smaller poll of likely voters. This one had Mamdani 44, Cuomo 34, so a little closer. Sliwa 11. This poll was taken last week. Number 3 is the new Quinnipiac poll. They did 2 in October, kind of like in Jersey. This is the latter one. They started gathering their data on this last week. The dates are above. It's really similar to the Suffolk poll. 43 Mamdani, 33 Cuomo, 14 Sliwa. So Sliwa doing a little better in this one. The fourth poll we're going to show you is Emerson. This is one we just got the day we recorded this today, October 30th. We're going to give you the numbers without leaners here because they offered 2 sets of numbers, one without leaners and one with leaners. We're going to show you without. This one was 50% for Mamdani, so he's hitting the magic number of 50. 25 for Cuomo and 21 for Sliwa. That's definitely one of the best numbers I've seen him get. Then poll number 5, the last one we're going to talk about, another one that literally just dropped right before we recorded this. This was from Marist up in Poughkeepsie. They released both registered voters and likely voters, but we're just going to give you the likely voters. 48 Mamdani, 32 Cuomo, 16 Sliwa. So in case you were wondering, and you may not have been, but we're going to do this anyway. In case you were wondering, if you average those 5 polls that we just gave you together, you would get Mamdani 47, Cuomo 30, Sliwa 15. Sounds about right to me. Now, interestingly enough, because there's been a lot of, hey, Curtis, get out of the race so we can beat Mamdani. Well, guess what? You add Cuomo and Sliwa together in those averages, they still don't equal Mamdani. So on that, before we move on to the campaign, I want to mention too, the pressure campaign that has been applied by some to get Sliwa out of the race. They think that if Sliwa drops out, that it will help Cuomo catch up to Mamdani, or some of them have this ill-conceived notion that if Sliwa were not in the race, that all of his votes would just go in one big block to Andrew Cuomo. And that is just not true. Here's the problem with that. The people voting for Sliwa don't want either Mamdani or Cuomo. Curtis Sliwa, the candidate himself, he can barely hide his contempt for Andrew Cuomo. It's actually something to behold. And if you're voting for Sliwa, you probably don't like Mamdani's social democratic policies either. The people who were going to bail on Sliwa to vote for Cuomo to try to stop Mamdani, they're probably already voting for Cuomo. You might get a few more Sliwa voters who get into the voting booth and panic and vote for Cuomo, but these are people, I think by and large, that just don't want to support either one of these two. And at that, even if Curtis Sliwa's support completely evaporated on election night, I don't even know that it would be enough to catch Mamdani because he's close to 50% right now. So in terms of the campaign, let's move on to that. It's been fiery to say the least. It was in the primary when Mamdani upset Cuomo, and then Cuomo refused to drop out, ran as an independent. At one point, Andrew Cuomo said, I'll move to Florida if Mamdani wins. So now let's talk about some of the debates. They hit on a lot of issues in the campaign. We'll touch on them briefly. Mamdani's age has come up. Cuomo's past corruption has come up. There was a debate about a week or two ago. Mamdani called Cuomo desperate. He trashed his record as the former governor of New York. Cuomo pushed Mamdani as an absentee state assemblyman, said he has no plan, he has no chops to be mayor, he won't know what he's doing. And then you had Curtis Sliwa up there. He was taking gratuitous shots at both of them. So also, Mamdani called Cuomo a puppet for Trump. Cuomo said he was experienced and could deal with Donald Trump. Cuomo accused Mamdani of stoking anti-Semitism. Sliwa went along with that. But then Sliwa was also very critical of Cuomo as governor. Since this is a local race, a lot of local issues have come up. They talked about stuff like rent freezes, building more housing, MTA fares, free buses, city public schools. Those are just a few things that have come up. But the national issues, like the shutdown, like inflation, like Trump bearing down on the city, those have come into this race too. That last one has been a point that Cuomo's been making. Trump rather seems to despise Mamdani. You probably just need to watch Fox News for a little while to see how Republicans feel about Zohran Mamdani, as if you can't figure it out already. And the notion is that Trump is going to crack down hard on New York City if Mamdani is mayor. Now, Mamdani, for his part, he's not having any of it. He said he's going to fight back. Now, by the way, in that Mayoral poll that I just mentioned, Trump's approval in New York City is 31% with 66% disapproval. So running against Trump in this campaign is not necessarily a bad thing. And it's part of the reason that Adams was never going to hack it this year. So some final thoughts on this New York City race. Mamdani has been the favorite ever since he won the Democratic primary. This has not changed. Cuomo has been fluctuating in the polls with Mamdani, but at no point has Cuomo ever actually caught up to Mamdani. Maybe a few of those Sliwa voters who really don't like Mamdani would be tempted to switch to Cuomo if it were really close, but it's not really close. We averaged those 5 polls together, as you just saw, and we had Mamdani up 17. If this were in the margin of error, then maybe I think you could see that. But right now, I think some of those Sliwa voters are saying Cuomo's going to lose anyway. I might as well just vote my conscience. So now understand too, if people are shy about predicting this race because of the primary where Cuomo was very much ahead, and then Mamdani closed the gap, and then Mamdani ended up winning the primary, some might wonder, well, what if Cuomo does better than expected? What if it's a reversal? I mean, look, maybe Cuomo does, maybe he doesn't. But the fact of the matter is he has been behind in this entire general election campaign. So Zohran Mamdani, whether or not you agree with his views, he offers something that New York City voters have never really seen before. And something that certainly neither of the other two candidates comes close to offering. I mean, hell, even if you want to talk about superficial stuff like social media, Zohran Mamdani putting on a masterclass, releasing videos on social media, and other candidates like Andrew Cuomo have tried and failed miserably, to be quite honest. So in terms of other things that the other two candidates, the not Mamdani candidates, offer, I mean, Sliwa's one thing. He's known in the city for the Guardian Angels. He used to be a talk radio guy. I still remember Curtis and Kuby in the morning. Cuomo is a former governor who had multiple scandals at the end of his tenure. He probably entered this race for mayor assuming that he would just basically be handed it, and that as a result, he would rehabilitate his political career. Well, Cuomo left office unpopular with the sexual harassment allegations and the COVID nursing home scandal. And if this race, both the primary and the general, has been any indication, he probably still is unpopular. Some candidates, past and present in this race, have been really, really tough on him, especially with the harassment scandal. You have Curtis Sliwa, Zohran Mamdani, Brad Lander, who ran in the primary. They dunked on him repeatedly for that. But look, at the end of the day, Mamdani is probably winning this. I would say, just based on feel, that his voters seem way, way more motivated to get out to the polls than those for anybody else. The campaigns that do best are the ones where you're giving people someone to vote for and not just someone to vote against. Mamdani, I think, has done a good job of giving his voters something positive to vote for, whereas it seems like the Cuomo voters are really just voting against Mamdani. Maybe to some extent some of the Sliwa voters as well, but I think those are just more conservative voters who don't like either one. So that's our evaluation. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th. Remember to get out and vote in New York City, and we'll have more on this election and the aftermath at electionyard.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll see you soon.